Good afternoon, everyone. I am Gopi Dervalia. Today I am going to deal with this topic tradition versus modernity in the home and the world. A famous novel by Rabindranath Tagore. This is my personal information. This is the roadmap of my presentation. First is about the author Rabindranath Tagore, about the novel The Home and the World, tradition versus modernity in the novel, characters in which the key characters of the novel Nikhil, Sandeep, and Bimla, and their perspectives on the modernity and tradition. Conflict and tensions, in which some dialogues of characters and from the novel that exemplify these conflicts. Then Tagore's view on tradition and modernity, and tradition and modernity in the contemporary time. About the author, Rabindranath Tagore is internationally known as a great poet. He was born in Calcutta, Bengal. From his earliest days, Rabindranath grew up in a house where all the surging tides of the Indian Renaissance were flowing around his daily life. He was primarily an educationist rather than a political thinker. The cultural richness of his extended family permitted young Rabindranath to assimilate and learn subconsciously at his own pace, giving him an open model of education, which he later tried to recreate in his school at Shantiniketan. He believed that education should help an individual to attain complete maturity. He also started an experimental school at Shanti Niketan, where he tried his Upanishadic ideals of education. Though he is mainly celebrated as a poet, his multifaceted talent was showed upon different genres of art. Rabindranath Tagore, a touring personality of the second millennium world literature, remains unsurpassed to this day by his unique contribution to this large and flourishing tradition. His works are classics renowned for their lyrical beauty, and moral thoughts. He showed that reality can be viewed not only from direct prosaic words but also from images and symbolic languages. These are his famous works Gitanjali, Gora, The Post Office, and Cloud and Waves. About the novel, here is a brief information of the novel The Home and the World. Rabindranath Tagore's The Home and the World, first published as a novel in 1916, was a very important publication in its time. To read this novel, one should be in one's mind his vision of modern Indian society. He is truly a man of whole earth, a product of the best of both traditional Indian and modern Western cultures. The novel focuses on three characters: Nikhil, Bimla, and Sandeep, each of whom speaks in the first person in recounting how they interact with one another. Nikhil is Bimla's husband and Sandeep is Bimla's would-be lover. Nikhil epitomizes the unselfish, progressive husband and who wishes to free his wife from the oppressiveness of a traditional Indian marriage. In contrast, Sandeep is a man who thinks only of himself and who reduces man-woman relationships to brazen sexuality. He is interested in a bluntly put, without any thinking niceness. Bimla is represented as a innocent who, at least initially, he is completely subservient to her husband. It is the relationship of the home with the outside world. Nikhil is Western oriented, modern, and he wants his wife Bimla to be modified by Western education. Bimla follows Hindu rituals, and so she doesn't go outside her house. Her world is the blend of conflict of Western ideas and traditional Indian life, but she imitates her husband Nikhil, and so she tries to grip modern ideas and things that Nikhil provides her. Tradition versus modernity in the home and the world. There is much talk about the term traditional, modern, and contemporary, which confuses the issue in art and literature. Thus, in talking about traditional, modern, and contemporary literature, one has to ask what is traditional, what is modern, and what is contemporary in literature. Tradition is commonly supposed to be everything ancient, something orthodox and obsolete. Actually, what is today called tradition was once modern and contemporary. Modern and contemporary seem to mean something fashionable. If a man wears a European suit, a necktie, he is considered to be modern, which only implies that he is not wearing the old tunic and dhoti or kurta pajama, but new clothes. This kind of talk is superficial because underneath the clothes, words or apparel remains the human being who is more or less unchanged or changed very slightly in the evolutionary process. Surely every age could have used the word modern in regard to its literature. But it must be admitted that there is always something new in the modern and contemporary, which is not in the ancient modern. Key characters and their perspectives on tradition and modernity. Nikhil, Sandeep, and Bimla, these are the main characters of the novel. The story revolves around three sharply contrasting characters: Nikhil, a real patriot; Bimla, his wife, a toddler in a political environment; and Nikhil's friend Sandeep, an aggressive yet materialistic charmer. Nikhil, Tagore's vision of new life is voiced forth by Nikhil. He is not a conservative, he is a liberal man with modern bent of mind. He stands for all that is good and vital in the Indian tradition. His approach to patriotism and Swadeshi movement reflect Tagore's nostalgic memory of freedom struggle. The patriotism and traditionalism portrayed in the character of Nikhil reveal the real nature of our nationalism and the expectations of most of the people of our country. Though it is an imaginative character, it paints the true picture of present day Indian society since the younger generation rocks between Indian traditional values and Western domination. This is the dialogue from The Home and the World. I am willing, he said, to serve my country, but my worship I reserve for right, which is far greater than my country. To worship my country as a god is to bring a curse upon it. Then Sandeep. Sandeep, an energetic, egoistic, wily schemers, aggressive Western type of nationalism, is the one which pasteurizes the emerging trend of present democratic India and also the new track that was shaped during the nationalistic movement. He carefully keeps his followers confused by mixing up westernization, nationalism, and social behavior. Next is Bimla. Bimla's character in The Home and the World by Rabindranath Tagore undergoes a transformation throughout the novel. At the beginning of the story, she portrayed as a traditional character who adhered to societal norms. She embodies the traditional role expected of women in her society. Bimla's character evolves from being more traditional to adopting a more modern outlook as she grapples with her changing beliefs and desires. Conflict and tensions in this novel, The Home and the World, there is a conflict and tensions between modernity and traditional values and modern ideals. So here is some dialogues from the novel. Bimla's inner conflict. I am torn between duty and desire. My heart craves the excitement of the modern world, but my traditional role as a wife binds me to Nikhil. Nikhil's modern perspective that we must strive for progress, but it should be gradual, not destructive. Our goal in independence, but we cannot achieve it by restoring to violence. Traditional values versus Swadeshi movement. And Sandeep said that the time of modernism is over. We must tear down the symbols of oppression and fight for our rights. Swadeshi is the way to freedom, my friends. Tagore's view on tradition and modernity. Tagore criticizes the Indian tendency for imitation of the West, known as the large westernization of India, as a simple copy that denatured both the model via the simplification in the process and the copy itself. Modernity must point to the renewal of Indian categories on the side of innovation and creativity, selecting in this process with a critical mind the positive contribution of the Western civilization. Thus, Tagore finds in modernism a tool for an aesthetic and moral anti-colonialist struggle towards independence, finding a harmonious relation to the West, one that would neither be complete rejection nor alienation, constitutes an objective to a large part of Tagore's literature, which guarantees him originally in his oppositions to most of his contemporary follows and a singularity in the understanding of modernism. Tradition versus modernity in contemporary time. Tradition refers to the customs, beliefs, and cultural practices that are passed down from one generation to the next generation. It has its origin in the past. Modernity refers to the contemporary behavior or way of doing things. It is fresh, new, and modern. Tradition and modernity both prevail side by side in India. Indian culture is a blend of traditional values and the modern spirit. Modernity is not altogether new in India. It is more than 100 years old and has during this period been making steady headway. The Hindu tradition itself is not homogeneous, as many of its spokesmen and critics often seem to assume. It is true that some of the Hindu traditions are inherently incompatible with the modern spirit. In ancient India, particularly during the period of Rigvedic society, the Indian society was free from most of the inhibitions of later Hinduism. In elaborating the distinctions and interaction between the great tradition of urban centers and the little tradition of village communities. Anthropologists have called our attention to the diversity and the existence of alternative in what has been supposed to be a uniform body of rules and values. We must avoid accepting the written and intellectualized versions of a culture as only the literate from of a common set of beliefs and behavior patterns. The distinctions between popular religion and the religion of the literate elite has long been a recognition of this difficulty in characterizing the religion of a society. M.N. Srinivas has shown that while higher social lives appear to be westernizing their lifestyles, when lower and middle levels seek mobility, they do so by becoming more devotedly Hinduistic, following more Brahminical styles, and otherwise Sanskritilizing their behavior. Tradition and modernity are not contradictory or competing concepts. Rather, they represent different phases of meaning and are, in fact, symbolically related to each other. As such, traditions is the ground from which all manner of modernity arises. To conclude, The Home and the World by Rabindranath Tagore masterfully explores the timeless conflict between traditional values and modern ideals. Through the characters of Bimla, Nikhil, and Sandeep, Tagore vividly portrays the inner turmoil and external clashes that arise when individuals and societies grapple with the transition from tradition to modernity. The dialogue, scenes, and character interactions in the novel provide a rich tapestry of the complex, multifaceted nature of this conflict. These are my references, and thank you.